Gosh, it looks like we're going shopping in some kind of awful emporium that sells you all sorts of things that you don't need, really. Once I might have liked this Arnie Jacobson chair, but now even McDonald's have them. This sort of tableau or shop display is in fact a work by Matthew Darbyshire, whose work is really all about consumerism and things that you buy and things that we all buy or things that people try to sell to us. And it's all about taste, really, what it is to be modern, to live in the modern world. So I suppose it relates a bit to British pop art. You can buy knockoffs of the world's greatest designers in places like IKEA, and you might just go shopping in the street market to buy a nasty, useless cactus that looks like it's made of porcelain. Who wants to take a serious phone call on a pink kind of furry telephone? Would you keep your copies of Shakespeare or Proust between these rather nasty bookends? This is actually called an exhibition for modern living, and it takes the title from a 1949 show in Detroit, which had the same title. And whereas that show was all about celebrating the new, mass production, the availability of modern design to ordinary people who probably couldn't afford it otherwise, and there was something utopian about it and the way in which the world was somehow getting better in the post-war era. This is less celebratory, even though it's all brightly coloured and has a kind of feel-good factor. I think the point isn't to say how horrible it all is, because, you know, we all have things a bit like this, or we acquire them, or they arrive at Christmas, and we feel obliged to decorate our homes with them. But really is something dystopian about the whole thing. And the other thing about it all is, to me at least, is that it speaks of a world which is somehow infantilized. That a lot of these things are like a kind of visual Valium. They have a kind of feel-good quality that actually makes me feel very bad indeed. It's all a bit like Through the Keyhole. Who lives in this house? What kind of person might live here? One thing I don't believe that Matthew Darbyshire is doing is laughing at people. I think he's looking at the world and looking at consumerism and looking at the way in which we direct our desires about the kinds of worlds we want to inhabit and do inhabit. You can have your plate celebrating the coronation of King George VI. You can have your pink elephants. It's something about the claustrophobia of it, the fug, the kind of visual puke that it somehow generates for me. Of course, lots of artists have dealt with these kinds of issues, back to pop art, forward to what was called commodity sculpture in the 1980s, where artists were making things which really declared themselves only as commodities first and foremost, and as art second. There's the ghost of Jeff Koons somewhere in all this. You can imagine him remaking some of these things in very valuable materials. So there's critique here and celebration. There are things to laugh at and things that are troubling in a certain way. For example, a sleeping Buddha, and I think there are one or two other little religious icons about the place, which again are about a kind of spiritual value, but turned into a kind of kitschy decor. And also we've got patriotism, the Union Jacks, the silhouette of the Queen, and they're supposed to declare our values in some way, but it's all gone horribly wrong. Derbyshire's work is part of the current British art show, which is touring the country, and at the moment we're at the Hayward Gallery in London. And this time, for this 5-yearly show, it's called In the Days of the Comet, and it's based on an H.G. Wells story about Halley's Comet coming. And on this particular occasion, it makes people suddenly become aware of the possibilities of life, and they feel optimistic, more spiritual, more happy. They're looking forward to a future that's going to be better. Well, this is the future, and the future isn't better at all. I don't think Derbyshire's trying to give us a critique so much as a snapshot of the modern world, a snapshot of the present, a present full of things, but in which there don't seem to be any indications of values. It's not about sincerity, it's not about collecting, it's about emptiness. It's about emptiness.